Jake Stuart with the National Sports Media Association. Today, I'm joined by 2021 Oklahoma Sportscaster of the Year, Adam Hildebrandt. Adam, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to join you.
Well, first off, congrats on your award, Adam. This is your first award from the National Sports Media Association. What does it mean to you?
I'll tell you what, it was really exciting, first of all, but it was a bit of a surprise and certainly an honor. I've been around NSMA for several years now. Got a lifetime membership a few years back, and had started to come out to the awards weekends for some of the SCAA seminars several years back. And so I've been around it a little bit and always thought that would be, neat to be able to potentially accomplish something like that one day. But, honestly, I was pretty honored just to be a finalist with some of the names that were up there in Oklahoma, guys that I've looked up to for a long time, guys who I literally grew up listening to on the radio or now watching on TV with the Thunder and some stuff like that. So, to be listed with those names was pretty cool to begin with. And then to actually win the thing was a complete honor and a little bit of a surprise.
What brought you into sportscasting? What made you want to be a sportscaster, Adam?
So originally, my plan professionally was to become a pilot and go into the Air Force. I had actually gone and toured the Air Force Academy. I have family who was officers in the Air Force, and so that was kind of the plan. And then the summer between my junior and senior year of high school, I went to the inaugural sports media camp at Oklahoma State, which was kind of my family school growing up. And that was when I realized that people actually did this as a job and as a profession, as opposed to just something that was fun that you got to go and do and talk on TV about sports or the radio or wherever. So that sports media camp was really where my attention turned. And I thought, no, I think this is what I would like to do. And so from that point on, that was the focus. Went to school for sports media and broadcast journalism, and that's kind of been the career path ever since. I'm incredibly fortunate that it took me back home. I'm from the Tulsa area, and so moved away to Missouri for a little while after college for my first job, and then 4 years later was lucky enough to move back to Oklahoma and get to call Division I games in my hometown. But it all started with that sports media camp. I've got some of those classic stories of calling games into a recorder as a kid with the Super Nintendo set computer versus computer and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of seriously getting into the business, it really all started at that sports media camp.
You know what, though, Adam? I think that's such a great story because, you mentioned the sports media camp, but, a lot of our winners have said, well, I've wanted to do this since I was, 5, 6 years old, and you had other aspirations with the Air Force. So super cool story there. Switching gears for our listeners, Adam is Oral Roberts, play-by-play, the voice of the Golden Eagles. You've been doing it since 2016. Obviously, 2021 was such a big year for you guys going to the Sweet 16. Can you talk about what that was like just to come from, an aspect of making March Madness, which was obviously a stretch, and then to go and just win and go all the way to the Sweet 16? What did that mean to the program, and what did that mean to you?
Well, it meant a ton to the program. They did a bunch of studies in terms of the amount of advertising dollars that basically the university got, not for free. I won't say for free because it came at the expense of a lot of hard work and a lot of time away from family for those coaches and things like that. But it was a massive boost for the university. Not attendance, applications went way up. Attendance went up too. We had a massive increase in season ticket sales this year and things of that nature. And the atmosphere was just, it's been different over the last couple of years inside the Mabee Center. It was a great place to go and watch a basketball game with the renovations that they did this year. There's a new multi-million-dollar athletic center that's being built adjacent to the Mabee Center. So it's done a lot of things for the university and for the guys that were part of that team. For me personally, what a wild experience. All of 5 years into broadcasting Division I basketball games. At the time there were only 2. Now there are only 3. Play-by-play voices of a school that was a 15 seed or lower that made it to the Sweet 16. Now one's made it to the Elite Eight, which is wild to see that happen in back-to-back years. But, it was a unique experience because of, the way COVID was affecting things. I had been traveling with the team all year, had been inside the bubble, quote unquote. But the team actually went so early because our conference tournament is earlier than most. So the team was actually there before Selection Sunday. And instead of me going with the team and being inside the bubble, I stayed back at home for a few days and then went and caught up with them and was outside the bubble. But because I wasn't in there with the team, I got the opportunity to take my family with me, and we got to go to the games. And so I got to bring my wife and my 4 kids along, and my oldest son at that time was 5. And in his mind, it's like, yeah, of course ORU is winning these games. Why wouldn't they? And I'm like, no, you don't understand the historical aspect of what's going on here. This is theoretically not how this is supposed to work. And so that was really neat to get to experience that with them. I have very, very dear friends in Indianapolis that I got to spend some time with as well. One of them got to come to a game. So that whole event was just incredibly special and something that mathematically I'll likely never experience again. Like, hopefully I'm fortunate enough to broadcast games for more teams that make it to the Sweet 16, but the chances are that it won't be a 15 seed when that time comes again. So, we'll see what happens down the road. But that was an incredibly special experience and one that I will treasure forever.
Right. Well, it sure shocked the world, and must have been really, really sweet to be a part of. But Adam, who were some of the sportscasters that you looked up to growing up? You mentioned the sports media camp. Who were some of the guys that you really looked up to?
Yeah, there are several. First of all, Dave Hunziker is a guy who I've been fortunate enough now to call a friend as well as a mentor. As an Oklahoma State fan growing up, I listened to Bill Teagans for a long time. He passed away in the plane crash in 2001, and then Dave took over for him. And so, Dave is someone who I've listened to a lot, studied a lot, and who's been instrumental to me. I mean, he helped run that sports media camp. And he and John McGuire and Ray Murray, who are still professors at Oklahoma State, I actually saw them the other day when we went over to play baseball over there. Were all very important to my career and encouraging me and helping me do things that I wouldn't have known, how to do at that young age. But then I think of guys like, I would go to sleep listening to Cardinals games as a kid. I'm not a Cardinals fan, but they were on the radio in Tulsa. And so I fell asleep listening to baseball a lot of nights in the summers growing up. So Mike Shannon certainly is a guy who I've listened to for a long time. And then I think of guys like Mitch Holtis at Kansas City, who has been doing the Chiefs for I don't even know how long now. Listen to him quite a bit as well. So there are other voices I like to kind of jump around. Jeff Haxton, I should have mentioned him way before now. He was my predecessor at ORU. I've mentioned this to him several times, but the way he and Chris Level, his color announcer in basketball, transitioned from conversation to basketball action, I think is incredible. It feels like you're sitting there watching the game with him. So he's another guy who I've certainly listened to quite a bit. And then the nice thing is now with things like the Varsity app and TuneIn, that kind of stuff, you can jump around and listen to a lot of different play-by-play voices. I'm drawing a complete blank on the name right now, but I ended up listening to, I think it was like it was a non-conference game for Nebraska a while back. This was probably 10 or 12 years ago. And just it wasn't a game that I was interested in. I just happened to flip through and find it, and it turned out to be a close game. And the whole time I was like, man, this is really good. I need to be listening to this more. So I like to listen to a lot of different people, but some of those names that I mentioned earlier are certainly the ones that have had the biggest influence on me.
Well, that's awesome. And some of those guys you mentioned, some of our former winners as well. Adam, last question for you, and thank you so much for being here and for your time. What advice do you have for, some of our sportscasters just looking to get into the industry now, especially, after COVID-19 and into such a weird time?
Yeah, that would not have been ideal to be trying to work through if you were just trying to get into the industry. First of all, kind of keep your nose to the grindstone. There's a lot of work to be done, especially in the early stages of a broadcast career where you're not making a whole lot of money, and you may never make a whole lot of money, but there's a lot of long hours. I remember when I was working in Missouri, we had district basketball followed by state wrestling the next week, and it was like back-to-back 85-hour weeks. And so it was long weeks, a lot of games, but I knew that it was necessary to get better. And so it was, I was doing 100 games a year at that point in my career, just doing everything I could at that group of radio stations. And Brad Boyer and the folks up there were very good to not only me, but my family as a whole. But it can be frustrating a lot of the time. I remember at one point dropping my daughter off with my parents because we needed help with childcare for a week. My wife was out of town for work, and driving back to Missouri, upset because I didn't feel like I was getting to where I needed to be. And I felt like there were some things that, that I wasn't necessarily providing for my family the way I needed to, but we were working together as a team and we knew what the long-term goal was. And we were able to get there, just a few years after that. And so sometimes it seems like it's a long tunnel ahead, and in some cases it is, but if you're committed and you keep fighting, you'll eventually get there. But it's not only talent, you got to meet people. Coming out to the NSMA weekend was huge for me. I've met great connections, not only people who I'm now broadcasting in the Summit League with, but also that's where I met Jeff Haxton, my predecessor at ORU, and that helped lead me to getting this job. It helped lead me to briefly getting a job in Western Oklahoma as well. So you got to make those connections, but find people to be on your team that are going to fight with you. If I hadn't met my wife in college, she went through me doing some high school broadcasting while I was in school, and understood what my passion for broadcasting was, and that's what I wanted to do. Without her support, there's no way I would have been here, and likely wouldn't have been able to stick through some of those tougher times as I was really getting started. So add as many people to your team as you can. Know that the work is worth it, and then meet as many people as you can in the industry, because you never know who might be that person to help you out.
I love all the advice, and I'm so glad to see that NSMA came full circle for you. Adam, we hope to see you this summer at our 2021 awards weekend, or 2022, I guess, this year. But thank you so much for being here, our Tulsa 2021 winner, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to getting out there.